Hello and welcome to Murder with Friends, the show where two friends come together and talk about some of the darker sides of history. I'm your host, Grace Baldridge, and I'm really excited about today's show. Kind of a big one, because my co-creator of this show, Amir Nikoui, is in the studio today.
I'm
Amir,
here.
this has been such a long time coming, putting this show together.
It really has, hasn't it? It's been like a year.
It's been almost a year. It started as a conversation we had just by the coffee machine. I think we mentioned
first bonded over this.
It was,
we both realized, like, oh, we have this in common.
Someone brought up something murderous.
Yeah.
And we both sort of looked at each other when someone else said a fact about it. We're like, do you know about this?
Yeah.
And then the show was born.
Yeah, it was born.
So today we're going to be talking about the Bloody Benders. And this was actually a family I had not heard of, but you were the one that brought it to my attention.
Yeah.
So how did you learn about this family?
As you learn any of these things, I was just on Wikipedia one night at like 2 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, you get like lost in different articles and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then I came upon the Bloody Benders, like a family of murderers in the 1870s during the westward expansion.
Yeah.
Super fascinating.
And so you saw a Wikipedia article, then you recommended it to me for a show discussion.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, we thought that we were going to have to find two other sort of macabre events that occurred during this time, but when we delved into doing some research, there is so much to talk about with the Bloody Benders that we decided to give them their whole episode.
Yeah.
So I guess let's just kind of jump into a little overview about who the Bloody Benders were. Like you said, they were a family of four: Ma, Pa, John Jr., and Kate Bender. And these murders took place during the 1870s, and they owned a small general store in Labette County during westward expansion, like you mentioned. So this was in Kansas, yes. And all these newspapers, it just took off like hot fire when, like hot fire.
Like hot fire.
What, is there another sort of fire?
No,
No, like piping hot fire when word got out that there was a whole family that had this methodical way of murdering settlers, I guess. How would you call them during
Pioneers,
this time?
settlers, the adventurers.
The reason you said before we were on tape, the reason why we're in California is because of a lot of these people.
I mean, like, unfortunate because we were just pushing back the Native Americans, but these are people. This was a mass migration of people from after the Civil War, after the Reconstruction, beginning of the Gilded Age. They were moving west, moving north, in search of new opportunities, wealth, land, gold, all these things.
Along the way, a lot of these travelers met up with the Bloody Benders, and they actually
totally exploited the situation.
Totally exploited the situation. They were responsible for at least killing a dozen travelers, although some people have speculated their kill count to be upwards of 21 people. Let's throw to a quick video just to give you an overview of who the Bloody Benders were.
America's first family of serial killers. The Bloody Benders were a family of serial killers who owned an inn and small general store in Labette County, Kansas from 1871 to 1873. The family consisted of John Bender, his wife Elvira Bender, son John, Jr., and daughter Kate. The Benders' home was found abandoned after locals started to ask questions about the disappearances of several local residents. All the food and clothing was gone, and inside the home there was found a strange trapdoor. When the trapdoor was open, it was found that beneath was thick pools of clotted blood. The homestead was searched further by a search party, who found 9 bodies in shallow graves around the inn. All but one of the bodies had had their heads bashed with a hammer and their throats cut, and it was reported in newspapers that all had been indecently mutilated. The body of a young girl was found with no injuries sufficient to cause death, and it was speculated that she had been buried alive. A Kansas newspaper reported that the crowd was so incensed after finding the bodies, that a friend of the Benders named Brookman, who was among the onlookers, was hung until unconscious, revived and interrogated as to what he knew, then hanged again.
Yeah, so also Amir, full disclosure, there is not a lot of, shockingly, video from this time.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Right, so what I was doing in my research, I found a lot of bizarre YouTube videos narrated by, I guess, like you said, Siri, that were detailing what happened during these murders. But that's kind of a brief overview of who we're talking about when we talk about the Bloody Benders, and not the rock group by the same name, that I also learned about through my research on YouTube.
I did see that too,
There's some good songs. Okay, but let's talk a little bit about the time. We touched a little bit on westward expansion, but let's talk about where they were settling. So the Osage Nation was a nation of Native Americans, and they were being pushed out, and people were just allowed to register land. And it seems like that's what the Benders did. It was just this free-for-all land that you just had to, whatever sort of paperwork was required at the time, it was minimal. And so it was this land of opportunity.
That was the whole thing of Manifest Destiny. The government wanted us, just people, citizens, to go out, settle, improve that land, because it would just make it easier for us as we took over.
Yeah, and we saw a lot of immigrants were coming over, and there is a lot of speculation, although so much of the Benders is unknown, that they were from Germany or they were of Germanic origin.
Yeah, so industrialism was really booming during this time.
Right.
And as a result, wages in America were a lot higher than everywhere else in the world, which led to this influx of immigrants.
Right, and it was basically, if you can plot this land, it's yours.
Yeah.
And you didn't need to worry too much about a language barrier because you go with your family.
How exciting! Just imagine like all these people coming from Germany, anywhere in Europe. They come to America and they're just out there, and they get to find their own land, 160 acres, make a ton of money.
I mean, as a lesbian, that's like free campground. Like it made me. I wish I was alive during this time, but I also don't, because the oversight was just not there, and that's how the Bender family was allowed to get away with this for so long.
Yeah. This is the Wild West. There is no oversight.
Absolutely.
That's what they call frontier justice. People would get murdered all the time, and then they would have to bring someone in. They would ask what happened. They're like, oh, you insulted that guy? Okay, yeah, he insulted him, so I guess he deserved to die.
Yeah, and also you could lie.
Yeah.
You could just
lie
about things. A lot of times they would say, because this was formerly the land of the Osage Nation, people would just say, where what happened to this family? Where is this person?
The savages got them.
Yeah, and you would just lie and just say, well, I guess they didn't make it.
Yeah.
So this is sort of the perfect setup for murder. And when we come back, we're going to be talking to you specifically about this crazy family. Who were they, and how did they kill so many people? We'll see you then.